Hey y'all, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing sweat-proof makeup. It is in the middle of July. It is hot, it's sticky, it is humid, and this is my sweat-proof makeup routine when I know I'm going to be maybe going out at night, if I'm going to an outdoor concert. This is what I do. The reason why I say it's sweat-proof is just simply because I live in the South, I have oily skin, and I sweat very easily, and when I do my makeup like this, it stays on. So let's go ahead and get into it. Please ignore my tripod stand back there. I have it perfectly set up for when I'm practicing my posing and walking, and it took me quite a few days to get the perfect setup, so that is what that is in the background. Okay, let me pull you in closer. The first step that is going to be crucial is skincare. So I've already showered. I washed my face with the Mario Badescu facial washer for acne prone skin. After that, I used the cucumber toner, and then I put on the oil-free moisturizer with SPF, I believe it's SPF 30 in it. So my skin is already prepped and ready to go. I don't use primer. I just simply don't feel like I see a difference when I use any kind of mattifying primer on my skin. Just as long as my skin is already prepped and ready to go, I don't have any issues. Oh, and I have on the Ole Henriksen Banana Bright Eye Primer, not eye primer, eye cream. That has been bomb. I know a lot of people, they really, you know, love primers, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have just yet to use one that I feel like actually helps control my oil, so I skip out on that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going right into foundation. The foundation that I'm going to be using is the MAC Pro Longwear Nourishing Waterproof Foundation. I'm in the shade NC50. Now you're probably thinking, wait a second, what is the difference between this and Studio Fix? Don't worry, that'll be the next Foundation Friday video. I use this heavily over the summer. I used it last summer, the summer before the last. This is a key essential for me because right now I'm just in a transition where I do not like a super matte face. I feel like it just kind of emphasizes my texture, although it does help keep the oil down, yeah, but I just don't like the way that it looks. So the cool thing about this foundation is it's not super matte, but it's definitely not anything that's dewy either. So if you're looking for something that's going to be long lasting and dewy, this is not it. But this is long lasting, but it is not matte. It's a natural finish. I wouldn't even call this a satin. It's just very natural finish. So I am going to take my Makeup Forever flat foundation brush in the shade is number 108, and you can get full coverage. You can dull it down or you can build it up. I typically don't have to build it up because I like the coverage that it gives me immediately. Now, is this a foundation that I wear every day? No, just simply because I don't wear foundation every day, period. That's just not anything that I do. However, like I said, if I know I'm going to be maybe going to an outdoor concert, going to a party, going out at night in the summertime, this is the makeup that I use. And then any areas where I have any acne scarring, I am going to kind of stipple the product on. And then in other areas, you'll see me sweep it a little bit more. If you have an area that needs to be concentrated on more, you don't want to keep sweeping. You don't want to keep swiping because you're just going to start taking off the foundation. My favorite thing about this foundation is how skin-like it is. I feel like a lot of times foundations that are definitely matte formula, or even sometimes I've seen it with a satin formula where it can be too drying. This is not drying whatsoever. It looks like skin. I am all about a more skin-like formula than I am a matte formula. And this is another foundation. I feel if you are someone that does have drier skin, I do feel in the summertime, just as long as your skin is prepped, you've exfoliated, you've moisturized, I do think that you can use this. I've used this on a bride in the summertime, and she had drier skin, and it went on just fine. I know for my dry skin girls, I see it a lot with my clients. and I have to nicely tell them like, hey, especially my brides, you have got to exfoliate your skin, because it doesn't matter what type of foundation I put on, even foundations that are suited for drier skin, if your skin is dehydrated, nothing is going to sit properly on top of it. I feel like that is a lot of the clients that I come in contact with whenever I do their makeup. Their skin is dehydrated, and it's just because, you know, the skincare has got to be on point. All right, skin like, yes, the coverage is good, I love it. So next up, we are going to go in with concealer. My favorite concealer, when I have to be super just like bulletproof, sweat proof, Urban Decay Allnighter. Now I feel like where a lot of issues can start creeping up with concealer is when we're drawing right angles and all of the geometry hexagons on our face. We do not need all that concealer, okay? Just hear me out. Most of us, if we're concealing, it's going to be mainly in this inner corner area, because that's where most of the darkness is going to lay, and maybe a little bit under. But drawing these crazy big triangles, and then when you're using something that is as potent and as full coverage as like a Urban Decay All-Nighter, it gets tricky with blending. If you're just looking for something to look nice and you want to look nice and polished and clean, you really want to scale back how much concealer you're using. I just saw on Trend Move today that Urban Decay, they're dropping a new foundation and concealer. I think it's called Urban Decay Vice. I'm gonna skip out on it because I know Anastasia Beverly Hills are coming out with the foundation in August, so that's what I've got my eyes on. So with this, now I don't recommend the Urban Decay All-Nighter if you do have drier skin, dry under eyes, because she's matte. She is matte. So I always start by just putting a little bit in the inner corner, and this is in the shade Dark Warm. When we are not in the summer months, I use the shade Dark Golden. Dark Golden would be way too light for me right now because I have been hanging out in the sun. And it only takes the teeniest, tiniest amount. And I am almost out of this. I will say this is one of those concealers that you need to use fast because it does dry up in the bottle. So if you don't use this in 6 months or less, what's the expiration on this? Let me see. Oh yeah, expiration 6 months. All right, I was right. And this is a concealer where, yeah, mine is practically done. This is a concealer that you need to blend fast. You do not want to put this one on and let it sit. With this one, I advise that you do one eye at a time. Also with the waterproof foundation and this is all-nighter, this is waterproof as well. Do not use a damp sponge. Think about it. These are waterproof products. So if you're trying to blend them out with a wet sponge, it's gonna be bad news bears. I recommend that you use a brush or even a dry sponge. You guys know I like to use a cosmetic sponge. Just one of the little white squares is what I prefer to use. But whenever you're working with waterproof foundations or even concealers, you wanna make sure that you are not using a damp sponge because it is not going to blend out properly. Now for setting the under eye, we're still gonna go in with the dark MAC Mineralized Skin Finish, just simply because I would never use a translucent powder to set the Urban Decay All-Nighter concealer because it is already dry. And when I set this concealer, I don't have to use a ton. It's probably one of those that is self-setting. If you're someone who has normal skin, you could probably get away with not setting it, especially if you don't have any kind of creasing issues. You could probably get away with not setting it. Okay, next up, powder. Urban Decay All-Nighter Waterproof Setting Powder. This stuff is the jam. Now, if you are somebody who likes to put on translucent powder up under your foundation, you could do it with this. I've done it before. It didn't bother the foundation whatsoever. I am someone where I don't do that, not because it doesn't work, but because I didn't see a huge difference. You know what I mean? I don't notice any difference. That's the reasoning behind me, like I stated earlier, why I don't use any mattifying primers, is because I feel like if my face is going to look the exact same without it, what's the point of bothering with it, period? And we also have to keep in mind that what works for me might not work for you. We all have different skin types and our body chemistry is different, you know? Body chemistry is different. Our age and hormones are going to be different. Our climate where we live is going to be different. So these are things that you're going to have to keep in mind. And then just to make my skin look nice and smooth, I'm just going to dust over a little bit of the deepest, darkest mineralized skin finish. I just feel like this makes my skin look really, really nice. This is an optional step. You do not have to do this. Boom. So I do not use any primers. I do not use any translucent setting powder. This is probably against all the YouTube makeup rules, but here on this channel, I make my own rules, okay? And that is it. It's super, super simple. Again, like I always say, keep it simple. I feel like these things are just made so much harder than what it truly needs to be. So I'm just gonna finish up the rest of my face here. All right, so going in with some Prime Beauty bronzer. And also something I have found with my face, my skin, the less products I am layering on, the better. I do find that my skin, my foundation does look better and doesn't get as oily as fast when I do have on a primer, because I think what we tend to forget is, y'all, we're going on 2020, okay? The makeup world has evolved so much. A lot of these foundations already are built to last. Even like back in the day before primers were even a thing, the OG makeup artist, Sam Fine, they weren't using primers because they just weren't a thing. It wasn't accessible. It just wasn't a thing to them. So I feel like sometimes primers can be, when I say primers, I'm speaking mattifying primers. I feel that primers sometimes can be a little bit of a gimmick. If your skincare is on point, if you're taking care of your skin, that is what is really gonna count. Keep in mind, foundations, a lot of them, especially once you start jumping into the waterproof foundations, they're already made to last. All right, now for blush, still obsessed with this Charlotte Tilbury Cheek to Cheek. Y'all are probably tired of it, but this is still my jam. And then you already know, Laura Glow, this is my jam. Probably the most underrated and best product I bought of 2018. So this is the face. The base is all done. Now I know a lot of people would use like an all-nighter setting spray or a makeup holding setting spray. Again, I feel the same way about those as I do mattifying primers. I can't tell a difference. Again, going back to what I said, makeup is already built and made to last. So therefore, I don't think that that is something that is necessary. I don't use those on myself. I don't use them on my clients. But what I do find necessary are things like the Mario Badescu facial sprays or MAC Fix Plus. Because if I'm working with someone who does have more of a normal to drier skin type, and maybe let's say I had to put powder on them, these sprays will take away the powdery look. I know sometimes, especially if I am using translucent powder on myself, I get heavy-handed and I'm kind of like, ooh girl, scale it back, and I'll spray this on my face and it'll refresh it. Now it's not going to make it dewy or anything, but it is going to give you a more lip and face. But since I've been using pressed powders, I haven't really been feeling the need to use it on myself, so I'm going to skip out. But again, that's just my 2 cents, my opinion. So I'm just going to go and finish up my eyes and then we'll be right back. But I do want to say that I am going to be priming my my eyes with the Urban Decay All-Nighter Primer Potion and Caffeine. This is a step that is necessary for me, but I don't think it's necessary for everyone else. I have super oily eyelids, so therefore eyeshadow primer I do use, but if you're someone who does not have oily eyelids, or if you feel like it's too heavy for the eyes, which I do see this on some people, if you use a concealer on their eyes or even an eyeshadow primer like this, it might be a little too heavy on the eyes. But for me, I definitely use eyeshadow primer. Okay, I am back and this is our finished look. I used one of my favorite palettes. This is unfortunately discontinued, but this is the Morphe 3502 palette. I go through moments with this where I have to hide it from myself because if it's out, I will use it. This is just, I mean, it's a bomb palette. It's warm tone, nothing special, but this is definitely a palette that I use a lot. So I just did all matte shadows on the eyes, and then I used my Sephora Wink It Felt Tip for my liner on the top, some waterproof mascara. I told you guys I haven't been putting any mascara on the bottom of my lash line just simply because I find that no matter if I do use waterproof, it does kind of run on me throughout the day. Now it's worse if I don't use waterproof, but I've just been kind of going bare, and I put a little bit of the highliner liner on my waterline as well. And the lips for today is oldie but a goodie, MAC lipstick in So Chaud. So this is it, guys. This is my waterproof, sweat-proof makeup. This isn't anything that's crazy innovative, and honestly, it's really not about the technique. This is about using products that are suitable for your skin type. So if you do not have similar skin type to me, there is a very good chance that these products might not necessarily work for you. But if you do have similar skin type to me and you live in a similar climate, I would highly recommend that you check out these products, because as the seasons change, I feel like it is very, very important to switch out your products with it. For instance, what I like to use in the cooler months, like the NARS Naturally Radiant foundation, I couldn't use that right now because it would just be too radiant. And even on my oily skin, I have found that when I use a mattifying foundation in the cooler months, it just it goes on a little bit differently. So I hope this was helpful for you. Down below, I want to know if you have tried any of these products. Also, if you have your own sweat-proof routine, leave that for me down below in the comments. You guys know the deal. Keep it simple, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.